Good morning, folks. While our last few speakers get seated, I think we'll get started. My name is Kenan Bigby. I'm Managing Director of Trinity Financial, and want to thank you all for coming out today. We called in a lot of favors, and I think we managed to get the first real day of summer for our event here. So we're here to celebrate and officially cut the ribbon on the Treadmark project. This has been a long time coming, and we're very excited to be here. So formerly known as Ashmont Tire, what is now Treadmark, to me, really represents the synthesis of local, neighborhood, city, and state goals around affordable housing in neighborhood and economic development. We've got a project that has created 51 units of affordable rental housing in the same building. We've got 32 units of for sale condominiums, adding some stability to this neighborhood. Those for sale opportunities are both affordable and market rate, creating a truly mixed income community to add to the diversity that is Ashmont and Peabody Square. Additionally, we've created 5,000 square feet of neighborhood retail, really aimed at supporting local businesses, like our friends from American Provisions, whose food we'll have the pleasure of sampling after this speaking event. Another reason for me to make my remarks brief, because they really do great stuff. But that ground floor retail adds to the vibrancy of Peabody Square and the existing businesses in the neighborhood. And working with our community partners, we hope to see that continue to increase. Additionally, this building embraces the principles of smart growth. Not always well received, we worked very closely with the neighborhood to envision and plan for what this building could be. But through that community process, we sort of got to a place that embraced increased density around transit nodes. You see the very busy Ashmont station behind us. It embraced reduced parking ratios to encourage use of other modes of transit, whether it be biking, the train, car sharing, etc. And really the mixed income, mixed use approach here, I think, is ideal for creating opportunities for all that call Ashmont home to continue to do so. Getting to this point is certainly nothing that we at Trinity could have achieved without the support and collaboration and teamwork of everyone that's here today and many others working behind the scenes. The partnerships, the relationships, those are really the enduring legacy that will go far beyond the bricks and mortar, the building that you see behind us. So I'm happy to be here today to allow some of those partners to share their thoughts on this project with you, and really just to take the opportunity to thank everyone that worked so hard to get us to this point. So with that, we'll start our speaking program. Our first speaker, representing the city of Boston, really needs no introduction, but I do want to say a few words. Mayor Walsh and his commitment to affordable housing and workforce housing in the city of Boston has been steadfast. Early on, he created the Boston 2030 plan for ambitious goal of creating more than 70,000 units of affordable and workforce housing in the city by the year of 2030. But more than just setting goals, the City of Boston has, through their agencies, Department of Neighborhood Development, Boston Planning and Development Agency, have made tools and resources, including more than $3 million invested in Treadmark, to make those goals reality. In addition, they've committed their dedicated staff to implementing those plans. And these folks work as hard as anyone that I know. And you can see the results of that. The plan is well underway, and year over year continues to exceed its goals in housing creation. So we're proud that Treadmark could be a small part of achieving those goals, remain steadfast in our working with the City of Boston to make Boston 2030 a reality, and really just want to thank Mayor Walsh for his commitment to this important goal. So with that, I'll ask Mayor Walsh to come up and say a few words.
Thank you very much, Kenan, and thank you. It's great to have everyone here today. I want to thank the elected officials that are all here. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, State Representatives Dean Cullinane, Russell Holmes, City Council Frank Baker, Jennifer Maddox from the Undersecretary of Housing and Urban Development, and everyone that's here today. I'm going to talk about Jim and Patrick a minute ago. And it's just Anissa Sabi George. I'm sorry, Anissa, the second time you're right in front of me. Anissa Sabi George. This project, those of you that are new under the tent here, if you're kind of new to the neighborhood or new to the process of the project, the Treadmark, this process started in 1997. 1997, I was a state representative, and one of the things that I campaigned on was doing the red line stations over. Savin Hill, Fields Corner, and Shaman. And the speaker at the time was Tommy Finneran. And the Speaker of the House called me up to the rostrum one June. It was a supplemental budget season. And he called me up to the rostrum and he said, I got some good news for you. I'm going to give you $78 million for the 4 red line stations to redo them. And at the time, I was thinking, okay, I didn't say what the 4th one was. I just assumed it was Ashmont because it was his district. And we're able to get the process moving forward to redesign 4 red line stations in Dorchester. These are the last 4 stations. If you look at the spider map, they were the last 4 stations to be remodeled or touched at any period of time. And we had a meeting here in this neighborhood. I think it was both Ashmont Adams and Ashmont Hill Civic. And a bunch of neighbors got together and said, well, we have an old parking lot that really is underutilized. Is there something we can do with the parking lot, which is now the Caruth? And they started talking about building a building on the parking lot in front of Ashmont Station, which wasn't my district, it was Tommy Finneran's district, and I thought, okay, if it works, it works. I'm thinking, how's that gonna work? And that process was a government, public-private partnership that actually sat down, started by the community, to have conversations about how do you move a neighborhood forward. And the Caruth, with Jim and Patrick stepping up, became existent here. Linda took over. Linda Dorsino-Fori, after Tommy Finneran was a state representative here, and continued the involvement in the neighborhood, and then the main streets, and then the community engagement, and the working through a community to have an inclusive community, bring change to the neighborhood, meaning more housing, but having an inclusive community and growth. And what's happened here really is a model that the country should use. Because we've had change happening. We've had new people move in. We had a young person move in next door. Her name was Ayanna Pressley. And now she's a member of the United States Congress. We had other residents come in, and then other elected officials after Linda, Danny came in, and Russell, and Frank, and Anissa. And when you think about where we are today, it really was a true public-private partnership to get us to this point. I want to give Jim and Patrick a special shout out because they've invested in a neighborhood that they love and know and have done it well. And work with the city and the state. Sheila Dillon's here from our Chief of Housing in the City of Boston, and working to really create opportunities for home ownership and people living in a neighborhood that can be affordable. And that's generally the theme in all their projects. And I want to thank them for that. After the fire here across the street in 2017, it was devastating. I remember talking to Jim the day after the fire. I didn't call him the day of the fire, but I called him the day after the fire. And at the point, like, he was just like, you know, what do you do? We're not used to seeing this. But what they did, they doubled down and they recommitted to building this project. where in other parts of the country, this building behind us would probably be set vacant and empty. But they didn't. They got on top of it, and they made sure that they moved us forward. Trinity has been an incredible partner to the city, as I mentioned already, building transit mixed-use housing. This is on, obviously, a bus and a train and a trolley line. This is probably the best transit-oriented development that we probably have in the city of Boston. And it shows that it works. There's also a lot of partners here that I just want to give a couple shout-outs to a few other people that deserve the shout-out. Commissioner Finn is here from the Boston Fire Department. They were here fighting this fire for literally, it seemed like a week because of the trickiness of the fire inside the walls. Sheila Dillon in housing, working to sit down and make sure that this project not only got done the first time, but got done the second time. Brian Golden, the Boston Plan Development Agency, and the staff from that department. Buddy Christopher from Special Services. Mass Housing Investment Corporation, Boston Private Bank, Conservation Law, Greater Ashmont Main Streets was also part of this. It takes a village to make sure we continue to move forward. And we're excited, I was talking to Jim about it earlier, we're excited to have an American Provisions on Dorchester Avenue. And I think that's a good thing. And we can clap for that if you want. Andy and Matt are here with us today. I have not been in your store yet, but Laurie certainly has more than one time. I want to thank you for being part of this development. I want to thank you for bringing a great amenity to our neighborhood here in Dorchester. It takes a village. This truly is a village concept on this project. But I'm also here excited to cut a ribbon on this new development. Today we're celebrating the rebirth of this development, but we're also celebrating a milestone here in Ashmont and PB Square. Treadmark is bringing 83 mixed income units to the neighborhood, including 51 affordable rental units and 32 home ownership. It's also just the steps away from our red line. This kind of housing is what we want to see all across our city and our neighborhoods. Housing that connects residents to transit, to stores, to opportunities, and other amenities. That's why we're committed in the city to continue to build more housing across all of our neighborhoods. Affordable and equitable are our guiding principles. We want to make sure everyone who wants to live here in the city of Boston can. And we're committed to making sure that our neighborhoods and our communities thrive. Along with American Provisions and the businesses that will occupy the retail spaces, it'll help boost our local economy and strengthen our Main Street right here in Dorchester. This is also an exciting time for PB Square. I want to thank all the partners involved. I want to thank the residents. I want to thank you for your vision, your drive, your commitment, for pushing, for staying involved, and your patience. This has been a partnership, and this will continue to be a partnership between the city, the state, nonprofits, and our residents that live in the neighborhood. I'm looking forward for all of us working together, and I want to thank you all for being here today. And again, I want to thank all the people from 1997. Tommy Finneran, you're here, Speaker. Thank you for the investment in Dorchester. Thank you for the investment in the stations. To the members of the neighborhood, thank you for pushing. To Jim and Patrick, thank you for believing. Have a great day.
So our next speaker has long been a supporter not just of affordable housing, but of policies that promote true equity for the residents of this city and beyond. A staunch believer that all residents, regardless of income, deserve a safe and affordable place to call home, and that the housing options in our neighborhoods should be representative of the people that call those neighborhoods home and a place to work. Mixed income housing truly represents our diversity. And she not only speaks about this, but actually puts her money where her mouth is, having called the Caruth, Treadmark sister property, home for many years. I truly believe the authenticity that comes with matching words with deeds is why she was able to take her platform national with her 2018 victory in her inaugural congressional campaign. Please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley.
Well, based on the mayor's remarks and that incredible introduction, I don't have much left to say. And I know it is very par for the course that elected officials get to a podium and say, I'm going to be brief, and they aren't. But I will be. I have some prepared remarks, but I'm not going to use them because, honestly, I'm finding myself feeling very emotional in this moment. As I was hearing the mayor recount the historical context and memory of how we arrive at this moment, I just want to take a moment and just to say that in this moment, I'm thinking of Vince Drozier, and I'm thinking of Marzouk Muhammad. But the entire team, Jim and Patrick and Sadio, just thank you. Thank you for being partners with community, for recognizing that community should be a partner in the visioning of their own neighborhood. You know, I've been in Washington a little under 6 months now, and I'm often asked, you know, if I'm becoming cynical, given how divided the country is. And my answer is the same every time. I don't have the luxury. We just have to keep working every day. And, you know, a pastor recently said to me that it's not that the country is divided, it's that we're disconnected. And that's why a community like Dorchester is so unique and so special and so important, especially now. These aren't just 83 units. These are 83 families whose lives will be changed. I know that their lives will be, and the trajectory of it will be permanently changed because I'm not OFD. I was DBC for 10 years. It's where I found my husband and grew our family and found community and created a life. This is an incredible community. It's vibrant, it's diverse, it's civically engaged, and I'm so excited for our new neighbors that will be able to call this community home. I do serve on 2 committees in Congress. One is Financial Services, of which housing is under. And we held the first hearing in Financial Services on the issue of homelessness. That was the very first hearing that we held under this Democratic majority Congress. And in that, we learned that we could end homelessness for the same expense of 1 military aircraft carrier, just one, by prioritizing housing first. Because it is everything. It is a critical determinant of health. It is the foundation of social and economic mobility. It is everything. And so again, this is not just 83 units. This is 83 families whose lives will be forever changed. And I did just want to also thank the Boston Fire Department. I remember that evening walking through billowing clouds of smoke with my neighbors, carrying my cat in a carrier who was quite loud, and even the firefighters even consoled her. But I just want to thank the Boston Fire Department at a moment of great anxiety and fear for assuaging those anxieties and those fears and putting themselves in harm's way. And then the Dorchester community, like it always does, rallies and came together. Dorchester neighbors were providing food and water. This is just what we do in Dorchester. And so can we just give another hand clap to the Boston Fire Department? In many ways, I feel like this building should be renamed the Phoenix because it did rise from the ashes. I also just want to say what a tremendous source of pride it was to see our shared values actualized in the execution of this project, not only in the cooperative visioning, but that this was a diverse workforce building this. And I do want to acknowledge that, so we can hand clap that to model in that way as well. And then finally, when that fire happened, and I spent time with a number of those families who worried that their hopes and their dreams might be permanently dashed or deferred, the fact that Trinity Financial vowed to never give up despite the many starts and stops of this project, because again, they knew this was about more than 83 units, but about 83 families. And I want to thank you for honoring your word and your promise. It's truly a great day, and I'm delighted to be here.
So for the next section of our speaking program, we're going to hear from some of the lenders, funders, investors that provided the financial resources to make this project possible. Before I ask them to come up and say a few words, I do want to recognize someone who's instrumental in figuring out how all these pieces could fit together. And that's my former colleague, current friend, Matthew Zoller. If dead brain cells were visible, you'd see a pile of them around his feet and trying to figure out how to get all these different pieces, different uses, different financing sources to fit together. And the building behind us is a testament that we were able to get there. So thank you very much, Matt. So I'm going to ask Undersecretary Maddox to come up and say a few words representing Department of Housing and Community Development. DHCD supports the creation of affordable housing throughout the state, and here, this project is no exception. The staff at DHCD has been a key component to the success of Treadmark, working with us to solve problems associated with the delays that came because of the fire, providing resources, here over $3 million in affordable housing subsidies, as well as state housing tax credits that generated another $11+ million in equity. All of those are resources without which we wouldn't be here today. And having worked in many states, I can unequivocally say that we are truly lucky to have the group that we have here in Mass at DHCD. Please welcome Undersecretary Maddox.
Thank you, Mayor Walsh, for your partnership, and thank you, Trinity Financial, for hosting us here today to celebrate this important project. As the acting Undersecretary, I have the pleasure of representing the Baker-Polito administration here today on a project that embodies so much of what we are working to create throughout the Commonwealth. Mixed income with affordable workforce and market rate housing, transit-oriented, and turning an underutilized parcel of land into a transformative development, providing critically needed new housing. We are in the midst of a serious housing crisis here in Massachusetts, and I know that it is most acutely felt here in Boston area, but it is truly a statewide issue. And at DHCD, we have been at the forefront of this issue, working with our partners like the City of Boston, developers, and our quasi-public agencies like Mass Housing and Mass Development to confront it. In many ways, it has been one of the most exciting times to be a part of the department. The administration understands the seriousness of the challenge, and housing is a top priority for the administration. Currently, I serve as the acting undersecretary, but I'm also the chief financial officer. And it has been personally and professionally rewarding to be a part of the agency's leadership during the Baker-Polito administration. Not only has our capital budget seen significant increases, but we've also been able to create new, exciting programs and led the way with new policies. Under this administration, we've announced the creation of a workforce housing fund, a partnership with Mass Housing, community scale housing initiative, the partnership to expand housing opportunities, a Better Life program, and a number of pilots to test new housing solutions and economic prosperity programming. We passed the largest capital bond bill in the state's history. It enabled $1.8 billion, that's right, $1.8 billion in new capital spending. We've nearly eliminated the use of motels and shelters, we nearly eliminated the use of hotels and motels to house our overflow shelter families and reduced our overall caseload by more than 20%. And I'm not sure you've heard, but the governor has been shopping around a little bit of legislation. It's known as the Act to Promote Housing Choice. This legislation aims to increase housing production substantially throughout the state by modernizing the rules, enabling communities to pursue new housing production that works for them. And it will not change Boston's zoning. It will, we believe, take a little pressure off the city. and enable the creation of housing outside the city limits and in the inner core. More transit-oriented development like Treadmark near commuter rail stops and MBTA stops throughout the region. I'm sure many of you heard about the report commissioned by the Smart Growth Alliance and was released earlier this week, which pointed out that our restrictive zoning hampers the production of multi-family projects in many of our cities and towns. We believe this is evidence that we need the reforms our housing choice legislation will create now. Because we heard from Madison Park Development Corporation at the hearing, for this legislation, Boston's neighborhoods cannot tackle our housing crisis alone. And we really need a statewide effort because our families and our residents deserve housing they can afford, where their kids can go to school, where they can go to work with a manageable commute, and where they can put down roots. Thank you again for inviting me here. I am thrilled to be here to celebrate the completion of this project. Thank you again to Mayor Walsh for your partnership, and congratulations to the team at Trinity.
So next, I want to talk about the Healthy Neighborhoods Equity Fund. This is a fund created in partnership between the Conservation Law Foundation and the Massachusetts Housing Investment Corporation. And to me, it's one of the most innovative financing tools to have been created in quite some time. Earlier, I spoke about putting your money where your mouth is, and this fund really does that quite literally. This is an equity investment fund that has the goal of creating healthy, walkable, affordable neighborhoods, and is willing to take substantially below market returns on their equity to ensure that that vision comes to pass. We were excited to include them in the financing of this project, and indeed the condo component would have been much tougher to get done without their participation. This mission-driven investment partner really made both the market rate and the affordable home ownership component possible. HNEF has just announced their second fund, so they clearly are seeing results from deploying these investments, and we're excited to see what projects will benefit from that going forward. Please welcome Maggie Church, VP from the Conservation Law Foundation.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. It's really just a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Conservation Law Foundation and the Massachusetts Housing Investment Corporation. I think this project in many ways represents the aspirations that we had and that we continue to have when we created our Healthy Neighborhoods Equity Fund. And I think as you heard, the intent is really to provide capital that is highly aligned with impact. Our goal is to create healthy neighborhoods across the Commonwealth, and this project really represents the best of what we think is possible. So I just want to say a little bit about kind of what we look for and why we think this project fits so perfectly. One of the things we understood some years ago was that although projects like this are incredibly important, incredibly impactful, they're also really hard to finance, and those of you in the business know that. When they're done, it looks like they've been here a long time, they fit in beautifully, but getting there can often be a long and very difficult journey. And we wanted to provide investment that both made that journey a little bit easier and made it clear that there are many kinds of benefits for communities, for the environment, for the economy that can happen when we align financing with projects that make sense. Importantly, one of our critical goals is really to provide financing to neighborhoods where people have said, we want to see this kind of development here. We have a vision, and this development fits that vision. And so everything you heard from the other speakers in terms of how neighborhood residents, civic organizations, and others have fought for transit, fought for development, fought for investment is really part of what we think is required to create sustainable change and healthy places. So we're very pleased that this project was able to utilize our financing. It brings together all of the key ingredients for a healthy neighborhood, housing that's affordable to a broad range of families, home ownership opportunities, ways to get to public transit quickly and easily and to access the jobs in the region that are part of that. Providing access to new jobs, certainly ones in the building, but also in the region. Safe and walkable streets, and access to healthy food and green space. So as I said, this project really captures all the pieces of a healthy neighborhood, from the community visioning all the way through to the finished product. So on behalf of our fund partners and our investors, just congratulations to all of you, to Trinity, City of Boston, Mayor Walsh, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're very pleased to be a part of it, and congratulations.
So before our next speaker, I do want to acknowledge another financing partner who graciously ceded his speaking time in order to get us more quickly to our reception afterwards. But Craig Wagner is here representing RBC, our tax credit investment partner on this project. Between federal and state housing tax credits, they have invested more than $22 million towards the completion of this project. This is a long-standing partnership of Trinity with RBC, and another successful project resulting from that partnership. So please, a round of applause for Craig and RBC. So another big component of the financing here is the debt component. And I talked a little bit earlier about the complicated structure that was needed to marry for sale housing with rental housing, with those affordability restrictions, with a commercial component. It really was not your vanilla project. Luckily, we have lenders that understand the vision, are willing to roll up their sleeves to figure out solutions to the problems that arise from these complicated structures, and have the fortitude to stick with us through both seen and unforeseen challenges. Here for this project, we worked with Boston Private Bank and with their participating lender, Eastern Bank, to secure more than $36 million in debt financing, both construction and permanent. Again, this is a key financing piece that without which we would not be here today. The structuring that went along with those resources would have given most banks heartburn, but Boston Private Bank and Eastern Bank were committed partners at the table with us, as I said, to figure out a way to get this done. We're thankful for the confidence that they showed in us as borrowers and as development partners, and truly value this partnership, again, a long-standing partnership that we look to continue going forward. Please welcome Esther Schlorholtz, Senior Vice President from Boston Private Bank.
And thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. And also thank you. It's a privilege to be part of such a wonderful development, and to see Mayor Walsh and Congresswoman Pressley here. It really has been an amazing privilege for Boston Private to be part of this community development initiative. It is, well, I should say Boston Private has financed a lot of innovative, creative, and highly complex community development projects, and this one wins, hands down. And the reason for that success is really the Trinity team. They proved they are of the highest caliber, skill, and dedication, and also why they are the most respected community developer in our whole region. So please thank them. Their very talented team was led by Jim Keefe, Rebecca Hemingway, Kenan Bigby, Jill Hyde, and Matt Zoller, all of them, just an amazing performance on their part, and really it was a privilege to be part of working with you. Boston Private's team was ably led by Peter Hollins with Kim Martin Epstein at Hackett Feinberg, and we can't thank our financing partners enough. Without Eastern Bank and the Life Initiative, this couldn't have come together like it did. Yomei Chen and her team at Eastern Bank, and Mike Gondak and his team, I saw Mike somewhere, and with the Life Initiative. They each played really significant roles, found extraordinary and creative solutions, partnering with us and with RBC and all of the lenders, and including Mass Development over there, and so many other actors that you have heard about. Just to thank them. It was truly a community effort. As the mayor said, it took a village to do this, and we were so proud to be part of that village, and we're also proud that this will benefit the neighborhood for years to come. So thank you for letting us be part of this.
Also want to echo and amplify the thanks to Mass Development, provided tax-exempt bonds on this transaction that led to the 4% tax credits. Again, all the disparate pieces and the players involved necessary to get here today. So thank you to Mass Development. Our next speaker, to me, represents the true sense of neighborhood that this project has come to simplify. It is truly a two-way partnership. The Greater Ashmont Main Street does so much to support the businesses throughout this commercial corridor and within Peabody Square. And those businesses are a key component to the success of both the Caruth and the Treadmark behind us. Without that ground floor retail adding to the vitality of the square, without those businesses providing services and recreation and nourishment to the residents of our buildings, these projects in this neighborhood wouldn't be what they are today. Neighborhood retail is tough. It's tough to get those businesses to succeed. It takes creativity. It takes stick-to-itiveness. It takes contributions from a lot of parties to make these things work. And as an umbrella organization, Greater Ashmont Main Street understands that and provides those supports necessary for these businesses to survive and thrive. So I want to ask Jen Carty, Executive Director of Greater Ashmont Main Street, to say a few words.
Good morning. It's an honor to stand before so many friends and partners in the audience and to share a stage with such successful leaders and some of my own elected representatives to represent Greater Ashmont Main Street today. For those who don't know, the Main Street model and Main Street organizations function as a mechanism for the community to help articulate and put into practice and reality its vision of itself. In Boston, the 20 Main Street organizations have contracts with the City of Boston through the Small Business Division of the Department of Economic Development to make this a reality. That contract is generous and helps us in many ways keep the doors open, but we wouldn't be able to accomplish the full work that we do without the other fundraising and support that we receive from members of the community and significantly grant writing and corporate sustainers. Trinity has been one of our corporate sustainer sponsors for more time than I have on record with the organization, and the partnership that we've had with them, the shared devotion to help the community articulate its vision of itself is a lot of what goes behind making the Carruth and the Treadmark developments possible. Trinity led the way, as did the engaged and active civic associations in the period before 2007, where the Carruth came into being, to realize the possibility afforded by the empty bus turnaround. The opportunity to create vibrancy and housing and transit access without displacement. It means that I have the privilege of working with civics who've been having conversations about transit-oriented design and lower parking ratios near a station with 17,000 commuters coming through it every day, and who are ahead of the game when a new developer comes in to talk about the next opportunity or project on the table. There are other things in the Main Street portfolio. The Farmers Market, our street festival, the jazz series, and all of the business supports that we provide or that we connect our small business owners to the city or state level or non-governmental organization supports. But our involvement in development and historic preservation is what's on the table for today. We can't solve a 40-year brewing housing crisis alone in the city of Boston, no matter how visionary Sheila Dillon and Mayor Walsh's other cabinet members are. We need statewide solutions, and I applaud the governor for the housing choice opportunity that's being floated. In the meantime, on the ground level, organizations like Greater Ashmont Main Street can do our best to contribute to solutions in ways that are as advantageous as possible, are as considered as possible. I've been asked to contextualize Treadmark and Carruth in the context of other developments in the immediate vicinity. During the last 6 months, this 3-block, 4-block radius has seen the addition of 187 new households in 3 new developments coming online, all within a stone's throw of Ashmont Station. You've heard of the 83 mixed income units within Treadmark, as well as the commercial spaces there. Our partners at the Boston Home have added 39 units at Harmon Apartments, 100% restricted for those with neurodegenerative conditions, and we have 65 market rate rental units in 1943.Ave by a project by Peregrine Group. In the next 6 to 12 months, I expect we'll be welcoming, or at least groundbreaking, on another 150 to 200 units between here and Wells Avenue. It is a point of pride for my organization that our support, advocacy, collaboration, and partnership in developments on .Ave have all come at 0 displacement. You're on a bus turnaround here, a tire lot there, open space that was put to critical social need at Harmon Apartments, an adult education facility. James Baker's upcoming project at 500 Talbot is another example. Increasing housing in these ways close to transit nodes is the best thing we independently as the city of Boston can do. To address the housing crisis we face, while we look to our neighbors nearby to help step up as well in other municipalities. It has been an essential part of Greater Ashmont Main Streets to play a critical role in this, the partnership we've had with Trinity, the opportunity to grow internally and understand internally, and for the neighborhood to learn from the kinds of civic discussions we've been having for a decade. The new households here led my organization to, beginning 2 years ago, vision and invest in an open space improvements campaign that we just cut a ribbon on last month. Talia was with us there for that. The city-owned plazas in Peabody Square outside the Ashmont Grill and near the historic clock received a $96,000 investment over the last 6 months in revitalization work. $26,000 of that came from individual donors and small business owners, and the balance from a grant from the Amelia Peabody Charitable Fund and matching funds from the Mass Development Commonwealth Places Fund, other institutional partners, and a significant part of the table, Trinity Financial, with the Peabody Square Improvement Fund that was established with the creation of the Carruth Building. We were committed to that project knowing these new households were coming in, knowing that many of them would not have open space of their own, and that we needed to make the best and most productive, vibrant, and welcoming use of the open spaces we have. We look forward to continuing our work. We've had 20 years so far and look forward to the next 20 to continue to create a district of vibrancy and welcome for all. Thank you.
So we're almost to the end of our speaking program. Before I ask our last speaker to come up, I do want to recognize a couple key members of the development team on the design and construction side. We've talked a lot about the housing created here, the levels of affordability, the businesses that this building will host. But I think we should take a moment to just recognize how spectacular the building turned out. It really does look like a building that belongs in this neighborhood, but a building that stands out for its design and quality construction. So I just want to thank Phil Renzi and Mike Bennett from the architectural team for all of your hard work in putting this building together, as well as Bob Lyon and his team at Cranshaw Construction for getting this building constructed the way that you have. Also want to thank Chris Stanley and Deb Nunes from Trinity Financial for your work working with the design and construction team to make sure we got where we needed to get. Our last speaker, to me, embodies the spirit of Trinity. One of the core principles of our company is integrity. And when we say integrity, what we mean is standing behind everything that we say, standing behind our actions, and making sure that those two things always align, and that the representations that we make in our community process, in our dealings with our neighbors and concerned community partners, in our dealings with our financing partners, and the goals that we set as a team are always met. Jim Keefe, president of Trinity Financial, definitely embodies the spirit of integrity. Additionally, for this project and the Caruth, these are more than just projects to Jim. This is a neighborhood that he has called home for many years, and so I know he has a personal investment as well as a business investment in the success of this project. Going through the challenges that this project has undergone with the fire, the delays associated with it, and the uncertainty as to how we would ever put the pieces all back together again. Despite many sleepless nights, Jim remained steadfast in his commitment to delivering on his promises and maintaining that integrity. And so for that, I thank him. For that, it makes it easy for me to be a nearly 20-year employee of Trinity Financial. And for that, I want to give him a round of applause and welcome him to say a few words.
As some of you might know, I've been doing this kind of thing for 30 years, and it's always a pleasure to be at this point in the process where you're cutting ribbons, but this one is definitely different. I kind of fancy myself as a tough guy, not emotional, kind of let's deal with the facts, but in this particular case, as I look around this room, I can't help but channel some of the things, some of the kindnesses and the thoughtful things that people did for this project and Trinity and me personally to help us get through it. I know I run the risk of missing people who played prominent roles, but I do want to single out some things, some people in particular for what they did, because it was extraordinary, and it's what got us here today. The first thing I want to say, in a light moment, is first of all, to thank Sadio Desmond for once again putting together a first-rate event. Sadio, the last will be first in this particular case. Also, how did you arrange for the duck feathers to come floating through here? What are those things? I feel like I'm on Lawrence Welk or something. Amazing. This is a new thing. First of all, I want to thank Marty Walsh, who's an old friend long before he became mayor. Great, absolutely great state representative. Loves this neighborhood, being from here, and the story he told about the 1997 and the new station was indeed true. It started a whole process leading to not only this project, but I think transit-oriented development projects all around the state and the country. Remember, the name for this project, Ashmont, the Carruth building, was Ashmont TOD. Well, in 2002, people couldn't spell TOD, okay? And now you see it everywhere. It's a transit-oriented development, you know? But we were among the first, in fact, until someone proves otherwise, we were the first. So this became Ashmont TOD2, and it basically channeled everything that we had accomplished across the street and brought it over to Ashmont Tire. The second person I want to single out is someone that's become a celebrity, someone who came to this neighborhood as a private citizen, looking for a place to buy and live. And she turned out to be our very first homeowner at the Carruth. And that is now Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She's such a big shot now, she doesn't want to be reminded of her humble beginnings. But Ayanna, we didn't tell Ayanna, by the way, that she was the only buyer. We kept that part secret. But Ayanna, you had a busy day today, and I know you had to juggle your schedule, but we felt symbolically it was really important that you be here. We really appreciate you doing that. Another person I want to thank, who's actually not here, but was kind of shocked when I said we were going to give him a shout out, is a gentleman by the name of Jim Woods. And I don't think he came today because he was actually afraid that it wasn't going to be such a kind welcome and thanks. But Jim Woods represents Hanover Insurance. And Jim and myself and a group of people at Trinity had a number of vigorous discussions over a period of time that for about the first 6 or 7 months ended very badly. But when it got done and we came to a settlement, and the fire, as you know, was in June, the settlement was in February, I told him at that time, to his shock, that when this day came, I was going to single him out because we got to a good place. It was a bad day for Peabody Square, it was a bad day for Trinity, it was a bad day for Treadmark, but it was a really bad day for Hanover Insurance, too, let me tell you. So anyway, I really wanted to single him out, and I know some folks from Hanover here, and please convey my sentiments to them. Another one I want to single out is right over there, who has gone into becoming a civilian. She looks fantastic, as always, but particularly fantastic now. But as our state rep, and as our state senator, Linda Forey, has embraced these projects. She has believed in what we're trying to do. She's been such an integral part of getting these projects approved and most especially funded, giving us incredible encouragement along the way. A very, very dear friend of Trinity and this neighborhood. A shout out to Linda Forey. Another person I want to mention, someone else not here, but please, Jennifer, if you'd be kind enough to extend, share these sentiments. There's a woman that sits at the top of the affordable housing world. She's very humble. She would never accept this characterization. But her name is Kate Racer, and Kate not only very generously came through the first time to get it funded with some encouragement from Senator Forey, maybe. But after the fire, we needed some help, not necessarily financial help, but some administrative help in order to get through this process. And Kate responded, you couldn't have responded better, and got us through some very difficult administrative issues that need to be resolved. So please extend our thanks to Kate, okay? And then where is she? Where's Sheila? She hasn't gone back yet. Where is she? Where is she? Ah, there she is, hiding. Now, Sheila and I have had an ongoing dialogue for 20 years, and she swears she doesn't hate me, okay? It's been kind of a humorous conversation we've had, and because I have lots of reason to think she does. But all of that went away when we needed to get this thing, a certificate of occupancy. In our business, time is very important. For a lot of reasons. I'd bore you to death to give them to you, but just take my word for it. You have to get things done by a certain date. And in this particular case, we needed a certificate of occupancy, and we needed it like in 2 days. And I reached out to Sheila, and Sheila said, Jim, I will follow up on this, and I'll try to take care of it. She then sent my email to Commissioner Finn, and how about a shout out to Commissioner Finn? Is he still here? I thought I heard a couple of fire trucks go by, but the effort that went into getting this place reviewed, inspected, with all the different things that go on, all the systems that need to be tested and made safe and put into place, they just did a remarkable job turning that around in a very short period of time. Sheila, thank you very much. Commissioner Finn, to your staff, thank you very much. I also want to shout out to a partner of ours, Craig Wagner. Craig's probably the person that came the farthest away from Charlotte, North Carolina. He brought his daughter with him. Craig is our partner in this project. He's also a partner in a lot of Trinity projects around the state and around New England. A special thanks to you, Craig, and also for yielding in time, because that gives me more time. Okay? Thank you. All right, so now comes the hard part. And I'm not going to be channeling a movie star when I put my sunglasses on, but I want to go back to the day that this happened. My sister Camilla was in my office, and I was walking here to the door, and I saw some people in the conference room, and they all looked grim. Matt was there, and some of the management company people were there. And they were having a discussion with Deb Nunes, who's the project manager here, who's in a trailer on this site. And they were discussing the transfer of property from the contractor to us the next day, and the plans for moving people in within 2 weeks. And I looked into the conference room and opened up the door to say hello and have them say hello to my sister Camilla, and they said, Jim, the building's on fire. And you have to understand, when you've taken something for years and years and years so far down the road and hear something like that, even a small little fire any place in the building would be hurtful. But this, by the look in their faces, was not a small fire. And I went downstairs, got my car, and I heard 2 fire engines coming down Franklin Street. And I said, dear God, please, these fire engines aren't going to Treadmark. And they were, because they were doing about 70 miles an hour down the Southeast Expressway, and I was right behind them. And of course, you couldn't get up here because it was a mess, so I drove to my house and parked in the driveway and walked down the street, and I saw some of my Ashmont Hill neighbors who had gone down to the fire and were coming back, and they couldn't even make eye contact with me. They were kind of like they didn't know me, because they didn't want to in any way give me the bad news about what was happening to our building. Came here, and it was a mess. I know some of you were there. It was just, I still have moments when I recall that terror. I turned around and went back, and I went on my back porch. It was a beautiful day like today, and First person who showed up was my partner, Pat. He had taken the train. The trains had stopped at Ashmont. They stopped the trains at Ashmont. And Pat had walked up from Ashmont Station and was there by my side as I was dealing with this. The second person to show up was my dear friend Eileen Riley, who left work, got a friend to drive her to the house, and was the second person to join me. The third one was Matt Zala, who was obviously having a terrible day, distraught, literally distraught. The fourth one was a dear friend of mine, Bruce Polishek, who had built many of our buildings, had built the Caruth. And we sat there in the back porch, not knowing what to do. What do you do? And at the same time, we were being bombarded by these crazy questions from the press about affordable housing and cheap wood frame construction, and does this have anything to do with that building that burned in London? These crazy things that come out of the media that you feel some obligation to try to respond to, but you can't because it's just total craziness and chaos. And then, of course, those helicopters flying over the house. And this time of year, the sun comes up at 4:30 in the morning, and it'd start flying out at 4:30 in the morning. That's what greeted many of us, those damn helicopters. So this was a very, very tough time, not just for me, but for a lot of people. But what comes out of this, and there's always something good that comes out of these, is the tremendous outpouring of love, of thoughtful notes, emails, people showing up at my door, people leaving things in the front porch, from so many people, from so many places that I heard about this. The love from my immediate neighbors, the support was, you know, we have these gifts in our lives, but unfortunately it takes something like this to get you to truly appreciate it. And I'll tell you, it was a sad experience and one I wouldn't recommend to anybody. But if there's one silver lining to all of this, is to remind me, and not for the first time in my life, what a blessing it is to have such great friends. So thank you very much. All right, we're going to end on a joke. You know, when you kind of don't get a chance to build the same building twice. And literally, we have done everything twice on this project except cut the ribbon.